Hello and welcome back to the World Championship in Through the Ages. After my win in the two-player game against Wendell, I'm now in a decent position. I'm not in the first position. I have 4 games finished and 16 points, but Mario, who is in the first position, has 1 game more finished than me, so maybe I have a small edge against him because of that. And František is also still in the running with 4 games finished and 12 points and 12 points, while Wendell is with 0 points out of the running, so he can't reach the next stage of the World Championship any longer. And the next game will be a two-player game against Mario, so that might be a very important game for the win of this league. And so now without further ado, we are gonna take a look at the game. In this game, I'm in the second position, and first of all, we can take a look at the leaders and wonders. We can see that there is some theater synergy in H3 with Fleming, Marlene Dietrich and Chaplin. There's also the internet, but no Hollywood, so that's important. There's also Pierre. There's not a lot of lab synergy. There's only Steve Jobs and Marie Curie, who are maybe not the strongest lab leaders. There's no Bill Gates. There's also the Empire State Building, spaceflight, no Red Cross, no Manhattan Project. In H2 we have some culture leaders with Darwin, Gaudi and Shakespeare, but there's no Bach. We also have James Cook in the Suez Canal, so a colonization strategy could work. We have one military action leader in H2 with Napoleon, and also Newton for maybe building a strong economy. And from the wonders we have Railroad and an Eiffel Tower and Gremlin. In H1 we have the Machu Picchu. We have no military action leader in H1, so it could be nice to get military action from somewhere else. There's Columbus, also Eleanor, who could work nicely with colonization strategy. There's Leonardo for some lab and printing press synergy, and then Genghis Khan and Nostradamus to help with the strength, and Saladin just as a very solid leader. We also have Universitas as a strong wonder, the Great Wall is there, and also the Forbidden City. And I think it is a bit of a tricky position for me. Mario starts and he takes Hammurabi. And normally I think I would really like to take the Acropolis now in my position, because there are some culture leaders in the game and Acropolis can just be very, very strong in two-player games. At least there's no Gandhi, so that maybe allows also to come back with the military, but the Acropolis is just so strong, and so I really would like to take it. But the problem is, if I take it now, there's no other leader on the row. Those 3 leaders would be discarded. Of course there can be some leaders revealed. Those would be Boudica and Sun Tzu. Boudica should probably be fine. Sun Tzu, maybe not that great. Maybe I could pressure Hammurabi a little bit. But even if those leaders are revealed, it's very likely that I have to take them for 2 civil actions. So that doesn't really feel great. And at the end, instead of hoping for one of those leaders to come out, because there's definitely the chance that maybe Boudica won't be revealed, and then I have to work with Sun Tzu, which maybe could be fine, but I would have to take him for expensive, and I just think that wouldn't really be great, and so I just went for Confucius. He's also he's just a very strong leader, especially in two-player games. I can maybe pressure Hammurabi also a little bit with him, but also scoring a bunch of signs along the way. I sadly give Mario the Acropolis, but I thought maybe I can go for the Colossus myself, because there's a colonization strategy definitely possible. There's a lot of synergy in there, and also with the Colossus and Confucius I can maybe pressure him, but also scoring some signs and maybe setting up a nice economy, whatever works better. So with that I took Confucius and sadly skipped the Acropolis, and then there's also the chance maybe that a library will come out of the deck, so that's also something. Then it's Mario's turn. He goes for Hammurabi. He will grab the engineering genius, he increases his population, and he just builds the mines, so he won't go for the Acropolis. He's maybe hoping to get a library, so that's interesting, and maybe he is not really playing that many two-player games, or maybe he just rather wants to hope for the library, or maybe an early H1 wonder. That means, of course, that I can consider now taking the library away from him. The library is on 2 civil actions for me. I definitely want to elect Confucius. And then I built my mine. I could just take the library now. I would have no free population, so that's not ideal, but I would deny the wonder from Mario. The alternative is probably to just take the Colossus and increase my population, and then the library would stay on 2 civil actions. It was a very close decision for me. Of course, it's nice to deny the library, but it can also backfire if there's an early Universitas revealed relatively soon, or maybe also Machu Picchu. Then it could even be nice for Mary to not have taken the library, and I would have taken the library for expensive, and with those colonization synergies being in the game, I thought that the Colossus might be better for 1 civil action and library for 2 civil actions for myself, and at least the library stays on 2 civil actions for Mario, so it's not that easy for him to grab the wonder, and that definitely also plays a part in my decision making. Otherwise, maybe I would have tended towards taking the library. It was a close decision, but at the end I went for the Colossus. Then I draw the strategic territory in a colonization card, so maybe that could be the beginning of a colonization game. Mario goes for Nostradamus, he definitely could help him with the strength, and interestingly he is grabbing bread and circuses, so he won't go for the libraries, maybe waiting for an H1 wonder, maybe for an early Universitas, and the bread and circuses, I mean there's Pierre, there's Darwin, so there's definitely some synergy, but interesting that he grabs that for 2 civil actions and doesn't go for the library, but I mean, maybe with an early Universitas he could get rewarded. And interestingly, he's also taking this urban growth. He isn't building the second lab yet, meaning that maybe he wants to leave himself open, the possibility open to go for the printing press with Shakespeare, Godey, and Darwin in the game. That could definitely be worthwhile, and so he also maybe doesn't want to get into consumption and takes the urban growth. My turn, I can start seeding, and I seed the strategic territory into the deck. The development of religion is revealed. I have a free population, so that's already one benefit of taking the Colossus and being able to increase population. If I would have taken the library, I would have now missed out on this. Then, no, I take the urban growth here. That's just a relatively nice deal. 2 resources for 1 civil action. And then I built 1 stage of the Colossus. I could have also increased my population and built a second lab, but the same is true for me as for Mario. I can maybe still get the printing press at my next turn and set myself up for those culture leaders, and so I didn't necessarily want to commit to the second lab yet. Also, it maybe gives me the possibility to grab an H1 wonder, so if there is a strong one available, maybe I can take that away from Mario, and so I rather build this stage of the Colossus than to committing to the second lab already. I increased my population, and then I can't do that much with my last civil action, but I can take the swordsman, which should be fine. That, however, means that this copy of printing press will be in the discard spot, so if Mario wants to go for printing press, he can just go for this copy now and also deny this from me, so that's maybe not ideal, but maybe it's also not too bad. In this case, I could just build a lab for cheaply with the urban growth, so that also would be a bit of an advantage, and I maybe could still find some other nice stuff to do, so I didn't want to take Genghis Khan. I mean, there would be the same issue, and I wanted to do something with my civil actions, and so I just ended up taking the swordsman. Like this, at least I have a military technology in hand, and I get it for 1 civil action. And I draw another very strong colony, the vast territory. There's also Columbus in the game, in case I don't want to seed it into the deck and rather keep it for him. There are some interesting wonders coming down the road. A Great Wall in the Universitas. Mario is electing Nostradamus and can take the free religion, builds the second lab, so isn't going for the printing press, and he is grabbing the engineering genius for 3 civil actions. So that's very interesting, but he can now go for one of those H1 wonders very cheaply. At my turn, I have to think about what I want to seed, and I wasn't too happy about seeding the Dark Ages. I get some additional science from Confucius, and also I actually made a decision to go for the Universitas this turn. We will talk about this in a minute, so with that I will maybe also have some nice science. So I didn't really want to seed the Dark Ages, I didn't want to seed my colonization card. I want to seed with Confucius, and at least I still have the Colossus. So I was willing to seed the vast territory, but it's also a bit of an issue because Mario just elected Nostradamus, and with that he also knows that I seeded that and can maybe prepare himself for that. So it's a bit tricky, but at the end I was willing to seed the vast territory into the deck. And then the development of settlement is revealed. I finished the Colossus, and then, as I already said, I will go for the Universitas, and that's mainly a denial. I don't think that's the best thing to do for myself. Can still work out decently, but it will take me quite some time until I can finish it, and maybe I can't really build a lab, or maybe that would deny how quickly I can finish the Universitas. So I think it's not the best for me, but I think it is probably worth it as a denial, because if I don't go for this, Mario could at his turn just take Universitas and finish it immediately for very, very cheap with both of those engineering geniuses. He would get a very big boost in the economy, and no. Maybe I could have seeded Dark Ages and then let him have the Universitas, but still I think that would have been a very strong turn for him, and so I was willing to deny it. Of course, now he can also go for the Great Wall, but it just doesn't give him that strong of a boost, that big of a boost, so I was willing to let him have the Great Wall, and I thought Universitas can at least still be decent for me. Maybe I can do something with it. In case I really want to go for a colonization game, it could also be bad having the Universitas lying around in case I don't finish it early enough to make place for the Suez Canal, so that could be an issue. But yeah, I just thought giving Mario the Universitas here might be too strong for him, and I have to deny it from him. So I also don't go for the printing press, which otherwise could have been maybe an alternative, setting up for something like Shakespeare, but no, I went for the Universitas at the end, and I draw a colonization card that could be very important, as well as the uncertain borders. Mario doesn't see it, maybe he doesn't have a fitting event. He will go for the Great Wall now. I mean, he needs something to use his engineering geniuses on. Could also maybe wait for the Forbidden City, but the Great Wall is of course also a wonder that has quite some potential. He starts with building 2 stages on it, and then to get out of corruption he will build a warrior. At my turn, it's an interesting question again, what I want to do with my politics phase, but I think there's a relatively clear answer. Of course, I could consider not seeding at all, but with Confucius I just really want to seed, and I want to keep those colonization cards with the 2 colonies coming, especially with Vast, and Mario will get a Great Wall, so I really don't want to seed uncertain borders, and at the end I just ended up seeding the Dark Ages, and hopefully, we both will have the knowledge about it, but hopefully I will find a way to prepare myself for that. The development of agriculture is revealed. I take Eleanor. There are other leaders that I could wait for, Leonardo or Columbus. Leonardo, is of course a decent leader, but with having Universitas, I maybe don't really want to invest into alchemies, and printing presses are gone, so I don't think Leonardo would be that great, and I don't have a colony in hand for Columbus, so I think Eleanor could be a nice transition leader, maybe also helping with those colonies that are coming, and maybe even helping me to go for an even bigger colonization game, with drawing some more colonies and colonization cards, but for now I want to keep Confucius. Then I take the irrigation. It's just a very important technology to have in 2-player games, so I wanted to take it now that it's available for 1 civil action for me. Then I still have 2 civil actions left, and I will increase my population to get out of corruption, and with my last civil action I will develop the irrigation, mainly because of Dark Ages. It could happen that Mario will seed, and then I maybe also want to seed with Confucius, and then at least I will only lose 1 sign, so it can be possible to seed. Otherwise I might have to skip seeding if Mario seeds. He is Nostradamus, he's only drawn 1 card at the last turn and didn't seed before, so maybe he still doesn't have a nice event to seed, but it's definitely possible, and I thought it's also not bad to just already spend a civil action on developing the irrigation. I keep the 2 colonization cards, and I draw 2 strength events. Mario will seed, and the development of politics is revealed, so even more cards. Sadly no colonization cards, that could have been very nice, but at least I still have those 2 in hand, and just 2 more events, Cultural Influence and Pestilence, as well as the Heavy Cavalry tactic. Mario uses the Engineering Genius, will finish the Great Wall, will go for the Iron, builds a warrior to go up to 6 strength, and reveals the Legion tactic, so he's putting a bit of pressure on me, and he will also take the irrigation. But he won't spend any signs, so he could potentially get punished by Dark Ages, but maybe he also just wanted to have both of those technologies available. At my turn I see the Cultural Influence in the deck. I think that's just the most neutral event. The Pestilence maybe also could be fine, but at the moment it looks very nice, but no, I don't know yet who wins Vast Territory, and if maybe Mario wins Vast and I win Strategic, then it could already get bad, so I just rather wanted to see the relatively neutral event, hopefully neutral event, maybe even a nice event for me, who knows. And so I seed this. The colonies could be fine. It's also dangerous because if the vast is revealed, then I have only this warrior. But I was hoping that Mario maybe at least has to send at least 2, maybe even 3 units, and with him having only 2 military actions, not the most resources and food, I thought maybe it will at least distract him a bit from building up economy. It probably would still be worth it for him, but I was still willing to seed, and seed, and I opened the Dark Ages. That is definitely not a bad timing for me. I mean, I could have maybe developed a swordsman now, but no, I lose 1 science, Mario loses 3 science, because he didn't spend any science at his last turn, so that is a nice event for me. The age very likely will end before my next turn, so I elect Eleanor, and I will go for the swordsman. I mean, I'm a little bit in danger if I don't increase my strength at all. Mario could go for an aggression then with me only having 2 military actions, so I kinda need to increase my strength, and so I can go for swordsman. And also with that have a higher potential to bid for the vast territory. I can now send 2 units away. The question is, do I want to build even more units? And probably I don't want to do this, because then I really spend a lot of resources and it could get very late until I finish Universitas, and I probably want to get it out of the way quickly to make place for a potential Suez Canal in case everything goes right with those colonies. And yeah, so I only build 1 swordsman for now. That makes me also safe from an aggression. And then I just take those 2 science helo cards. I delayed building the second lab for quite a bit. I have some additional science from Confucius, but it's still not bad to have those in hand. I still need a government form, so I think those might be quite helpful for me. And then with the last civil action, I started working on the Universitas. I have still enough resource to build another swordsman if I really have to at the next turn, and so that should hopefully be fine. I keep the 2 colonization cards and draw even another one. Mario seeds and a strategic territory is revealed, and I'm able to win it, and I want to rather keep more colonization cards in hand, so I send away the swordsman and 1 colonization card. Maybe it doesn't make a big difference, but no, I thought maybe it could be nice. And I draw some cards, some tactics. That's nice because I didn't have drawn a tactic yet. I mean, I could copy the Legion tactic at some point, but being able to get it for 1 instead of 2 military actions is also nice. And yet another colony, so we will have to see if I seed this into the deck at my turn. Mario starts going for the iron, can go for 1 upgrade, increase his population, and then takes the alchemy. Doesn't take the knights, interestingly, but he has the Great Wall, so he should be fine for quite a while. And he has now quite some technologies in hand, and has not the most science, so that could be a bit of an issue for him. And with taking no cards at all, it actually means that it will be H1 for 1 turn longer, so I also don't get the Colossus draws in yet. The question is, do I want to seed or not? And I ended up seeding. It's a bit of a risk, because if the vast territory is revealed, then again I might not be able to win it, but at least I again was hoping that Mario would have to pay a price for it, that it wouldn't be that cheap for him and maybe again prevents him from doing some stuff. And I just can't keep the developed territory and the colonization cards easily in hand, so if I want to get this colony in the deck, then I need to seed it now. I also get the bonus from Eleanor. There's also maybe even a chance that I draw another colonization card. That sadly isn't the case, but I draw yet another colony, so I definitely get my hands on quite a lot of colonies. And the event revealed is actually not a vast territory, but a wealthy territory, which was seeded by Mario, interestingly. Question is, of course, do I even want to bid for this, or do I just maybe want to leave this to Mario, or maybe bid relatively low so that he maybe sends a colonization card away and I have better chance to win the vast territory. But I was thinking that I have some chances to win this and still win the vast territory. And now I have already 2 colonies. The developed territory is coming, vast territory is coming. I have inhabited territory in hand, so in this case, or in this situation, I made a decision to fully commit to a colonization game. I win this colony for 1 warrior, and to have a nice shot at winning the vast territory. And I also know that Mario knows that the vast territory is coming, so he might prepare for it, though he doesn't have enough science to go for the cartography. But I really wanted to win the vast territory, and with that I was willing to invest into the cartography. I have to play the cultural heritage for that. I need to develop it. I can't really do a lot else. And then I can still build 2 swordsmen. So now I can potentially send 2 swordsmen away. I have a colonization bonus of 3. And I get at least 3 draws in from the Colossus. So that could be nice. And then there's also the developed territory and potentially the inhabited territory coming. So even though 2 colonies have already been revealed, I thought that the cartography might still be worth it. And now I also leave myself with 6 resources so that I can maybe finish the Universitas at the next turn. So I have some potential here, but my position is also a bit fragile. I didn't really upgrade anything of my economy yet, so it's also a bit dangerous. But if I manage to win those colonies, I maybe could have a nice game ahead of me. I keep the Legion tactic and the inhabited territory in hand. Then H2 starts, I draw sadly no colonization cards, but yet another colony. And Mario Seeds opens the vast territory. I'm willing to go all in, and I also need everything. So I need to send 2 swordsmen away, which is definitely costly considering that I don't have any additional resource production going on. So it's a bit of an issue. And then the next turn I probably again can't really finish the Universitas unless I want to risk missing out in the developed territory. So that's a bit of an issue, but the vast territory is just so strong, and with that I was willing to send the 2 swordsmen away. Now it's Mario's turn. He can go for one more upgrade. He takes the breakthrough and then he will just float the last civil action. He has some issues with his hand space. He probably didn't want to develop the Breton Circus without a breakthrough, then he would go even lower on science. So he just takes this bit of science and then at the next turn can maybe start going for alchemies or something like this. Now it's my turn. I have to think about if I want to seed or not. And in this situation I don't seed because there's the potential that I just gift my opponent the developed territory, and there are some other bad events that could be revealed like rats, so I didn't want to seed here. And I increase my population. I build 1 swordsman so that I can bid for the developed territory, but I want to leave myself with 6 resources so that I can maybe finally at the next turn finish the Universitas. Then I increase my population again. I increase it again just because I thought there is maybe the chance that rats are in the deck, so I just want to get as many population out as possible now. And then with the last civil action I just build another stage in the Universitas. I don't take the iron. There is an early coal that will stay on 2 civil action. There's also an early republic, so some interesting stuff is coming down the road. We both still need a government form. I kind of would have liked it to maybe just grab the republic and then maybe do somehow a revolution, but I just didn't really see how I can set myself up nicely for that. It would have been very costly, and at least I let it stay on 2 civil actions for my opponent. And yeah, but it's a bit bad. Now, for my resource production, I still have a chance to get a coal at the next turn, and there's of course the potential to get a Suez Canal at some point, who is already really strong at this point with having 3 colonies and a very decent one in hand. And no, and didn't want to just take the iron, and instead I thought maybe just going for coal could be nice potentially, or just going for the Suez Canal potentially, and like this I can finish the Universitas while still having some free civil actions to take some stuff. If there is Conmon available for 3 after Mario has taken the Republic, maybe I can just finish Universitas and take the Conmon and then hope to get the Suez Canal at some point. So no, I didn't want to take any of those cards and just build a stage of the Universitas here. I also revealed a Legion tactic because I want to keep both of those colonies in hand, and I might need a Legion tactic at some point, so I used the military action that I have now. Mario Seeds and a Knowledge of the Ancients is revealed. I mean, it's a nice event for me. I gain 1 more science than Mario and also a resource in addition to it. Mario can now make space in his hand with developing the alchemy. Then he takes the Republic, he builds a warrior, and he also takes the selective breeding, so he takes this food solution away from me. Or probably it's not even a hate draft, maybe he just takes it for himself, because I have already the irrigation developed in a nice yellow bank, so I think it's mainly for himself. And now maybe he could have also just skipped it and went with irrigation and then went for 1 more upgrade, but the selective breeding is definitely a nice upgrade over the irrigation, so maybe it is worth it to take it. Now it's my turn again. Now I also can seed again, because I have a unit to bid for the colony. Of course there could be some strength events, but I can't really get stronger anyway, and so I just want to get the draws in from Eleanor. And there is the developed territory revealed, and I win it for 1 swordsman. Maybe you could have thought about just building a warrior, but I also really wanted to make sure that I win yet another colony. as I thought it might be quite a nice one. I definitely need some science. So I win it for the swordsman. I finished Universitas. I leave myself without units for now, which is definitely dangerous. First of all, in case my opponent has had seeded a colony, which is probably unlikely, then I can't bid for it, but the even bigger issue is that I can't defend myself, so that is definitely quite a bit of a risk. But I just thought I need to get this Universitas going. The additional science might allow me to go for constitutional monarchy, and I just need to get this going. I want to prepare myself being able to grab the Suez Canal if it is revealed. And Mario at least didn't have that many draws. He has also only 2 military actions. I have drawn some additional cards from Colossus and Eleanor, so he might think that I have an H2 colonization card in hand. I also still have the chance to draw one, and so I was willing to leave myself vulnerable, but it's definitely a bit of a risk. But with Nostradamus, if he has an event to seed and an aggression to play, maybe he will just go for the event to seed, because there's the chance that I might defend it, and then he also misses out and draws. But it's definitely a risk. And then it's a very interesting question what to do with my last 3 civil actions. My first thinking was that I maybe just grab coal reserves and a fission upgrade. There's also a cavalryman that I maybe want to take to just have the options to go for some tactics with that. And there's also a revolutionary idea available for 2 civil actions, which could be interesting. Yeah, but as I said, my first instinct was to go for coal reserves and a fission upgrade. But there is an issue with that. I get some very nice resources from the yellow cards, and I get a coal. Maybe I can start upgrading to it at the next turn. But I have a full hand, and if the constitutional monarchy is available the next turn, I would not be able to go for it. And I thought it might be very important to be prepared for it, to have not a full hand and enough science to go for that at the next turn. So I could maybe do something like just take 2 cards. Maybe, I don't know, maybe just take coal, efficient upgrade, and then use the urban growth to build a second lab or something like this. That could maybe be fine. And then I would have the coal in hand. I thought that maybe the reserves could be the more interesting card, because if I should get the Suez Canal, it might allow me to go for it quicker. But of course, if I go for the coal, then it might also be perfectly fine to just take coal, efficient upgrade, and then maybe make space in hand, or use my last civil action to build a second lab with the urban growth. But I probably also want to rebuild a unit relatively soon, so it might take some time until I can actually go for the coal. And I also thought that I maybe don't really have enough science to go for coal and Conmon. There's of course the chance that I miss out on Conmon, but Mario maybe wants to do revolution, and after the revolution there's definitely a big danger that I miss out on Conmon, but then I have some big issues anyway. So, I mean, I don't have that bad of a position. I think I have some problems. It's tricky. At the end, I made a decision to not go for the coal, because I thought that might not be easily possible to set this up. It might, if I go for the Conmon, I maybe can't really go for it easily. I still need to go for some other stuff like military technologies, and at the end I just went for the reserves and a revolutionary idea that leaves me with a free hand space, so I can go for the Conmon in case it's available. And I also have some additional science, so after I go for Conmon I can still do some stuff, and I have the reserves to help me with potentially finishing the Suez Canal earlier. So I'm now in a bit of a tricky position, because if I miss out on Conmon and Suez Canal, I definitely have some big issues. So just as a potential backup plan, it might be worth it to go for the coal. But I thought about the next turns, and it was a really close decision, and at the end I just rather went for those yellow cards. And I also was hoping that I maybe still get a chance to take the second copy of the Cavalryman. Then I draw 2 cards, no colonization card, but yet another colony, the autonomous territory. So if I miss out on Conmon but get the Suez Canal, then maybe that is a chance. So even if I miss out on the Suez Canal, maybe win it normally. That would at least be a chance to get some additional civil military action, so that's nice to have. Sadly, no colonization card, so if Mario goes for an aggression now, he would be able to win the aggression. But Mario seeds instead, and he opens the red, so that event was indeed in there, and sadly I lose 4 food, which is not ideal, but maybe also not the end of the world, because I have some free population, and I will get some population back relatively soon, or some food back. Mario just does the revolution. I think that's probably the best that he can do, but he is still relatively low in science, which is a bit of an issue for him. But I mean, he has enough to go for selective breeding at the next turn, so maybe that could be fine. And at my turn I was very happy to see this constitutional monarchy on the row. So now we see that it was very important to leave myself open for that. Of course, I could have still gone for the coal line, but now it might be nice not having taken the coal, instead some other stuff. And yeah, so with that, yeah, I definitely was very happy about it. That Conmon reveal might be very, very important. I also seeded the developed territory into the deck, because now I can maybe keep the autonomous territory as a potential colony for the Suez Canal. And the cultural influences revealed. I also had knowledge about the last event in the deck. And then I go for the constitutional monarchy. I develop it, and there's also a very strong leader for me in the row, and that is James Cook. I can take him, I can elect him, getting some civil actions back from Eleanor, and then I have still 3 civil actions, and use those civil actions. First of all, I want to build a warrior, so that I'm prepared for the colonies, and this time I build a warrior instead of a swordsman. I can defend myself now, and with Cook, I was hoping that I maybe can win the inhabited territory that is on top without having a swordsman available. And also it makes a difference for the Suez Canal. Maybe I have to rebuild some units anyway, but now I'm at 2+3, so I am at 8 resources in 2 turns, and together with the reserves that would be 11, which would be enough to finish the Suez Canal, so it potentially could also make a difference on how quickly I can finish the Suez Canal. And then with the last 3 civil actions I took the urban growth. It's just very nice, getting 3 resources for 1 yellow card. And with the last 2 civil actions I took the cavalryman, because we both still need that technology. And so no, I think that's just important to take. Now he can't go for any cavalry tactics. Then I draw some new cards. The Ravages of Time could be very interesting, with him having the Great Wall available. And now there will be the Time of the Truth. The Suez Canal is in the row, and now of course it was very interesting to see if Mario will do anything about it. First of all, he seeds, and the inhabited territory is opened. I'm able to win it for the warrior thanks to James Cook's ability. I still have to send this colonization card away though. And it was the big question, is Mario going for the Suez Canal? Is he denying it? I think it should definitely be something that he should consider. And especially if he has a colony, if he has a relatively nice H2 colony, maybe he should just go for it. If he has no colony, then of course it gets a lot more trickier. Maybe he could still think about denying it, just because it's ridiculously strong for me at this point. And even if he just takes it without any intent of finishing it, of course it blocks him from all of the H3 wonders, but maybe it could still be worth it, because without having the coal, I'm a bit vulnerable, of course, with my resource production, even though at least I have some civil actions now which can help me make up for it. So I think it could be considered even without having a colony, but Mario, I think, makes the decision to go into a different direction. He takes the Rifleman, which is also a very important technology, because we both, or I have the Swordsman at least, but Mario has the Great Wall, and I think it's a very helpful technology for him. And I think he wants to go for an aggressive path here. He goes for the Rifleman, develops them, takes Napoleon, starts upgrading those. All of those 3, maybe he has already an aggressive card in hand, goes down to 2 signs, which is interesting. I thought maybe that could indicate that there is some help coming, either with the H2 events, maybe he has seeded Cold War, or maybe he has an aggression in hand like Spy. So because otherwise it would feel a bit dangerous going that low in signs, but I mean, at least he has the alchemy developed and could maybe start upgrading to those to get a bit more science going. But he leaves me the Suez Canal, so no, let's see if I will be able to finish it, because there's of course also maybe the danger of an infiltrate, which could remove the Suez Canal from me. But he didn't draw that many H2 cards, so that is one hope that I can have. I of course still take the Suez Canal, no, I just have to maybe hope that I can finish it, and a card that also helps me a lot finishing it is the Engineering Genius, so I take this card in hand as well. And then the question is, what do I want to do? I don't want to start building on the Suez Canal, because I want to build a stage with the Engineering Genius, and in case there is an infiltrate, then I didn't want to commit any resources into the Suez Canal yet. Maybe James Cook could also be an interesting target for a potential infiltrate, but maybe it could still be better to remove the Suez Canal. And at the end I have a full hand now. I can't take any cards. The cannons could be very interesting, because now there will be only 1 copy left. Maybe I will have a shot at denying it from Mario, but I will also have a lot of stuff to do, so it might be that I miss out on the cannons, but I also don't have a tactic for them yet. And at the end I just went for, first of all, building one swordsman, so that I can bid for the developed territory, because I don't want to miss out on any of those colonies. And then I have one civil action left, and I use it to use this urban growth to build a second lab to get a bit of additional science production going, because at the next turn I might have lost this urban growth, so I can build this lab very cheaply, and I can still finish the Suez Canal at the next turn with the engineering genius and the reserves. But I'm definitely in danger, because I can't defend against an aggression, and an infiltrate could be really bad, but also some other aggressions could be annoying. I had one blunder in hand, so there's only one left. No, but let's see what Mario will do with his politics phase. Maybe he will also go for a war. I draw 2 wars, and Mario is going for an aggression. It's definitely an aggression that helps him a lot. It is the spy, but it's an aggression that I was perfectly fine with, because it doesn't prevent me from building the Suez Canal, which is very important at this point. And Mario will go for the strategy. That could be a very helpful card for me. Building the lab also made sure that I can maybe have enough science to develop it. Of course not now after I got hit by the spy. Of course I have the revolutionary idea, but maybe it could make a difference to not have to play this. But Mario goes for the strategy anyway. I mean, it was almost clear that he takes it. So, but I mean, he was down to 2 science before his turn, so if he didn't have a nice solution for that, maybe there's a chance that he would not take it, but I guess it was very likely that he would take it. He takes the cannons as well, so I won't get my hands on this copy as well, and then he just goes for one upgrade to his labs and takes a patriotism that maybe will help him to go for further aggressive play. But I was very relieved to see that he went for the spy, because I think if he had something in hand like plunder or infiltrate, he would have gone for it now instead of maybe waiting with it. So that means that he maybe doesn't have such a card in hand, which can maybe make me hope. Because now I can finish the Suez Canal at my turn, and I definitely don't want to wait with that. No, because no, that will just give me a very big boost. At my turn I actually make the decision to seed. Mainly because, first of all, I will also get some draws in from the Colossus. I draw an Impact of Technology, Science, and Hybrid Wars, so some interesting cards. Sadly, no defense cards, those could have been very nice now. And I made a decision to seed the Ravages of Time into the deck, because I thought that might be a very nice card to be revealed later on. Mario would lose the Great Wall. I think he is going for an aggressive direction here and removing the Great Wall, losing the strength, but also the Happy Face could be quite annoying for him. I also lose the Colossus, but it's less strength and also gives me more culture reduction, so I think that is very nice, and I want to see it revealed as quickly as possible, which is why I was willing to see it, even though of course there could be some annoying events on top. And there's also a bit of an annoying event on top, at least nothing that influences my turn and maybe does some damage to myself, but Mario gains another 6 science, so he has gotten 5 from the spy, 6 from the Cold War, and has now quite a bunch of science, which will allow him to maybe go for strategy, cannons, and for some potential aggressive play. To finish the Suez Canal I have to play the reserves, and then I can use the engineering genius. I can finish the Suez Canal, and the only colony that I have in hand is the autonomous territory, but of course that's a very nice one to get. I made a decision to take the science from it, because after the spy I have not the most science left, and I might still need some science to go for some military technologies and stuff, and I have some very decent resource production now, and also still the possibility to get some population out. And yeah, I have a really great Suez Canal now, 6 colonies with Suez Canal and Cook, so that's very nice, and also another one is coming, which I maybe have a shot at winning. And then I also took the frugality with that nice of yellow bang that gives me maybe even more than 1 population, so I thought that should be nice. Also thought about the reserves for more flexibility, but I thought maybe just getting the frugality is fine. Then I draw some more cards, at least 1 colonization card, maybe that will help me at some point to defend myself, and also interestingly 2 more wars, so there are definitely fewer wars left now for my opponent, which could be quite important. Also, we are at the beginning of age 3 now, and I finished the Suez Canal now, so we can take a look at the overview. And I think for me, now mainly I have to fully focus myself on defending myself. I have a culture lead, I have a very decent economy, but at the moment I'm very vulnerable, so I should be mainly focused about defending myself, and then I think I have a very nice position. No, but if Mario maybe gets more aggressions off and increases his strength as maybe a nice tactic gets a war, then it could definitely still get dangerous. Mario doesn't see it, also doesn't go for an aggression, so it seems like he hasn't drawn anything nice. He goes for the organized religion for more happy faces, also goes for the selective breeding, will go for 2 upgrades, takes the breakthrough in the wave of nationalism. At my turn I seed again, mainly to again make sure that the Ravages of Time is revealed as quickly as possible, and here I see the impact of technology into the deck, I think, or no, the prosperity, yeah? So I start with that. Maybe that will help my opponent more than me, but I thought it's maybe too early to commit to one of those impacts, so I rather seeded this one into the deck. And the developed territory is revealed, and I was willing to bid for it. However, I had a way to get out of, I had a way to make sure that I can defend against Mario, even if I spend this colonization card, which at the end happens. I have to spend a colonization card, but I get yet another colony. I have no more science, more resource production, more culture production from James Cook, and I will be able to defend myself from an aggression even with having no colonization card in hand now. Otherwise I probably wouldn't have sent the colonization card. I take the air forces, because otherwise there's the risk that I will miss out on those. I increase my population 3 times, and then I have just enough resource to build 3 swordsmen, which means that I'm at 13 strength, and with having 5 military actions, that's just enough to defend myself from an aggression. And with the last 2 civil actions I just take the tanks, because Mario still doesn't have any cavalry technology, and now it makes sure that he can't go for any modern armies or stuff like this. So he is mainly limited to defensive armies, positional armies and entrenchments, or maybe also fortifications. So maybe he doesn't have any of those tactics, and it reduces the chances that he can pull off a big military push. So I think taking those tanks is very important, and now I definitely felt a lot more comfortable, but I also still haven't drawn any tactics, so that could still be an issue. And it's just very nice now having 7 colonies with James Cook in the Sluice Canal, so that is looking very strong now. And I was very happy to draw a tactic now, also a tactic that potentially could work nicely for Mario. So, and another colonization card, which still might be helpful to defend against an aggression at some point. So I was very happy about this draw, and while I can maybe not go for that yet because I don't have any rockets, at least there's the chance that I will get rockets and that I can have a tactic that I can use then. Also, the rockets are coming down now, so we will see if Mario will deny those. He goes for the cannons, goes for one more upgrade to his lab. Will take the military theory, thanks to the upgrade he has enough science to go for it at the next turn, and then he plays the patriotism to build 1 cannon. Doesn't build anything more, maybe an indicator. I think he also didn't have enough resources, but he also just makes sure to draw 3 cards, so he probably still needs a war or a nice tactic or something. Can take the air force at the next turn, but he will leave me the rockets. Again, I see it, and this time it's the impact of technology. I have a bunch of science saved up. I want the developed territory, and Mario just invested 6 science into an H2 technology, so I thought I hopefully will manage to at least score even with that, maybe even can turn it into a nice impact. There's of course still the chance that there is something bad on top, but it's actually something nice, the National Pride, which I'm able to win now that James Cook has produced me that much culture. I definitely want to take the rockets, and I also start building them. I can build one. Now I'm at 18 strength, thanks to the colonization card. I can defend myself. I can't take any of those wonders, so there's only the Empire State Building left that I can go for. And then I take the civil service, which will give me more blue tokens. It won't allow me to go for the Air Force at the next turn, which could potentially be a bit of an issue. But I thought there's maybe not a lot of... there's definitely some danger. If Mario has something like positional army, can develop military theory, build a cannon, reveal positional army, or also defensive army. But there's also... the Ravages of Time, of course, wouldn't be resolved immediately, so if he goes for one of those, wouldn't be a helpful event, maybe even a bad event, because I would lose the Colossus then. But I will take with my last 3 civil actions this patriotism, which will at least allow me to build 2 rockets, reveal the tactic, and that will be a decent amount of strength. And I thought the civil service might just be very helpful because it might allow me to end the game quicker. It will also give me more blue tokens, which might be helpful if I maybe can consider finish the Empire State. With that, it might be easier to finish the Empire State building at the end because I'm only on bronze mines. And yeah, so there could potentially be a war, but I think it wouldn't be big and maybe not big enough, and he maybe also wouldn't draw any cards then, and I think he just has to somehow manage to build up to something big. And if I could still decently defend against the war, and there's even the chance that with the Revolutionary Radi I could go for modern infantry, and then I wouldn't have even this tactic in a not outdated way. I draw some new cards, Impact of Competition and Culture. Mario goes for an aggression, but I have this colonization card. If I wouldn't have this colonization card, I probably would have made sure to get a bit more strength to not be in danger of getting hit by an aggression. But with having it, I allowed myself the luxury to not invest into the military more. Mario goes for the blunder, it doesn't work out for him. He goes for the military theory, takes the air forces, the reserves, and the revolutionary radius. Doesn't have enough science to go for air forces though at the next turn, but he could maybe go for a decent amount of strength if he has a nice tactic that he can work with. And maybe also potentially with Marlene. At my turn I will again see it, this time I see the Impact of Competition. I have my ability to build some nice H3 units and also having the team sports in hand, which I potentially might still go for. I thought that could be a nice, I thought it could be a decent impact for me at the end. And a prosperity is revealed, which at the end isn't really great for me, but at least it allows me to increase my population 2 times instead of only 1 time, so that's actually not too bad. I will grab the modern infantry, which allows me to go for this tactic and not outdated. And I also go for the modern infantry immediately. I don't like to say take away the possibility to go for air forces, but I think that's perfectly fine now that I can go for the tactic in a not outdated way. I increase my population, and actually I think the food didn't make a difference, or maybe I missed out on something. Yes, I also would have been able to increase my population 2 times without the prosperity, so I miscalculated something there. I go for 1 rocket. I upgrade 1 modern infantry. Now I'm 5 strength behind, so I can defend against an aggression. I take this urban growth. I take the engineering genius, I increase my population again, and I will build another lab with this urban growth. I wanted to leave myself the option open to go for team sports at the next turn, because Pierre could potentially be a leader that I maybe want to go for. With the Olympic Games, it could be worth it, even though of course I might miss out on James Cook cultural production, so he won't be a big upgrade, but maybe I will go for him, and so I wanted to have this option available. Also I have the Impact of Science in hand, so maybe at some point it could be useful to have this lab anyway. And then I go for 1 upgrade to my farms, because that will allow me to increase my population again at the next turn. And at the next turn I could potentially build 2 rockets, reveal the tactic, and I would have 1 normal and 1 outdated tactic. I can maybe also do this and potentially end the age, even though that might be close. Maybe I won't be able to end the age. And then also Napoleon would be lost, so maybe Mario could win a war, but it wouldn't be a big war. I definitely can set myself up for, could defend relatively nicely, so I don't think a war from him would be big enough. I draw some new cards. Balance maybe potentially could be interesting, even though as soon as I lose James Cook I might be relatively low in culture production, but the Impact of Government is definitely a decent impact to see it. Mario seeds, and a freedom of movement is revealed. He will use it to put an iron mine into cannon, so maybe he has still some military plans and hopes. He increases his population, builds yet another cannon, plays the reserves, increases population, takes this copy of reserves, and the bro sports. I'm not sure if it is the correct decision to take this copy of reserves, because that will make it possible, or definitely easier. I didn't make any calculation if it would be not possible at all for me to NTH, but now it is possible, and it's easier possible for me, so of course the reserves is a nice card for him, but maybe he shouldn't have taken it, because his only out at this point, I think, is to go for a very big war. Again, I see this time the impact of government, and this time the Ravages of Time is finally revealed, so Mario has to lose the Great Wall, I will lose the Colossus. And as you can see, I actually go for Steve Jobs. I could have gone for Pierre, but Pierre is not that big of an upgrade to James Cook. I gain at the moment 8 culture from James Cook. I also would gain 8 from Pierre, and I wasn't really certain if I will build one team sports. It could definitely be that I will build one, but then Pierre would only give me 2 culture. And Steve Jobs will make it easier for me to NDH, or he will allow me to actually take a potentially useful card and NDH instead of just taking cards that I don't actually need. I will still develop the team sports. Getting the science to develop it was not only to be prepared for Pierre, but also to have a way to make space in my hand. And then I take the communism, I take the computers, I play the patriotism again to make space in my hand. I don't want to elect Steve Jobs because James Cook is still giving me some nice culture. I upgrade one swordsman to modern infantry, and if I would have gone for Pierre now, actually, maybe it wouldn't even have been possible to NDH. Yeah, I think that was the reason. Yeah, because then I would have to take 2 more cards, and I think that wasn't possible. Yeah, I mean, could elect Pierre to make space in my hand. Yeah, but I would miss 1 civil action, so that was the issue. Of course, with taking Pierre, I don't take 1 card away from a non-discard spot. So yeah, if I want to NDH, I need to take Steve Jobs, I think. And now I can take a card also for 3 civil actions, and that's the military build-up. Yeah, which potentially could be useful. I could also think about an urban growth, but I also already have 1 in hand, and I thought maybe the Empire State Building could be nice. Maybe I can use the military build-up to potentially overtake Mario in strength to score for the Empire State Building also in that category. It's maybe not really a big reason, because at this point I have such a big lead, so how big my Empire State Building is maybe does make a difference, but I thought it might still be the most useful card to take. Also potentially to prepare for the impact of competition. I think that was probably the even more important reason. And then I revealed the entrenchments tactic so that I'm not in danger of an aggression. And the age will end. I draw 2 impacts. Impact of agriculture and progress. Age 4 starts, Mario will lose Napoleon. He will reveal the positional army tactic, so at the end he had this tactic, but now he also lost the Great Wall. He will go for Marlene. Will go for 1 movie, is just enough resource to go for that, and then to not have an uprising he will increase his population with playing the reserves for food, but at this point there should be no out for him. And then the best impact for me will be the impact of science, so I seed this one into the deck. And the impact of technology is revealed, which gives me +4 against Mario. I can take the Empire State Building, I will increase my population 2 times. I built an additional farm at the turn before, or was it at the turn before? I think it was at the turn before. I used freedom of movement to put a worker from bronze mine to irrigation. One reason was that because now I have just enough population available to increase my population 2 times, and also now there's another way how I can get another category for the Empire State Building, because I can build this additional farm. Mario with being at 50 strength now, I can't easily overtake him anyway. And so I just built this farm. I built the team sports to have a potential better impact of happiness. It also will help me for the impact of competition and for some potential other impacts. And then I finished Empire State Building for 21 culture, and I built the Empire State Building just in bronze mines. For those of you who are on Discord, maybe you remembered that there was some talk about trying to finish Empire State Building just on bronze mines. I think the engineering genius was not allowed, so that was a bit of a mini challenge, and I'm cheating here with engineering genius, but still, at least I finished Empire State Building on bronze mines. So that's still quite nice. And then that's the end of my turn. And before the impacts, I have quite a big lead, and the lead is something like 80 culture, 81. So there is no hope left for Mario, especially because most of the impacts are from me. There's the impact of competition, which gives me +1 against him, the impact of science, which gives me +10 against him. We have the impact of government, which gives me +4 against him. And then the last impact is from him, that's the impact of strength, so that's a nice one for him, but at the end I win this game with quite a big lead. Yeah, so that was quite an interesting game, and I think definitely a game that could have gone in different directions, because I was definitely a bit dependent on the constitutional monarchy and on the Suez Canal, or no, probably not a bit, quite a lot. I took the Universitas, and that maybe slowed my economy a bit down. Also, winning all those colonies, of course, distracted me a bit, but I had the big potential for the Suez Canal. I got the Conmon at a very nice time, that I think was quite important. I made the decision to not take the coal, which maybe was a mistake, but at the end it worked out nicely. And then my opponent had a potential to deny the Suez Canal. Instead, he tried to go for an aggressive game. And I can see, especially if he has no colony in hand, I can understand his decision. But even without a colony in hand, maybe he could have gone for that and for the denial. But he also wanted to have the rifleman, and maybe it wasn't also too bad to try to go for an aggressive game. So it's maybe not ideal with being on Republic, but at least he had Napoleon. So no, he couldn't prevent me from finishing the Suez Canal. He stole some signs and went for some other aggressions, but actually I think the spy was the only aggression that went through, if I remembered correctly. So yeah, at the end with the Suez Canal, as soon as I finished the Suez Canal, I had a very, very confident feeling about this game. There was of course still a chance that maybe I don't get a tactic at all, and Mario can set himself up very nicely for a big war, but yeah, as soon as I finished the Suez Canal, I felt very confident, and I think Mario had to do something to take that away from me, and then who knows how the game would have gone. I think at least I still would have had James Cook and a Conmon. If I would have missed out on Conmon and the Suez Canal, it could have gotten quite dangerous, but I think then the coal probably would be better than not having it, but also not that strong to really give me a good position. Maybe it would then still be better to just save up some signs for an H3 government and hope for an early one. So I think it was maybe fine to skip the coal, maybe a questionable decision, but at the end with getting the Conmon and the Suez Canal it worked out. And the revolutionary idea I think at the end was also helpful. And yeah, so at the end I win it. We are a very nice colonization game that potentially could have been prevented by Mario, at least the Suez Canal part of the colonization game, which is of course quite an important one. Yeah, would have been interesting to see how the game would have went if he maybe denied the Suez Canal. Of course, that would have been very costly for him. He would have also missed out on some stuff for himself, and then maybe I could still, with James Cook and with at least having the Conmon, do some nice stuff with those yellow cards that I had in hand. So it would have been interesting how it would be interesting how it would go, but with the Suez Canal, I just had too big of a lead in the economy. Alright, now after this game is finished, we can take a look at the standings, but I also have to say you that I made a decision to skip one of the games, and it's actually a game that finished already before this one. However, I put the replay code of this game also in the description, so if you really want to see this game, you can take a look at it, and if you want to see it without having any knowledge about it, you maybe should stop the video now. Yeah, but now we are gonna take a look at the standings, and with this other game that is finished, I will also talk about why I didn't show it at the end, and yeah, but let's take a look at the current standings. The game that I decided to skip was a 3-player game against František and Vandal, and there are two reasons why I skipped it. First of all, the first reason is that I'm just a bit too behind at the moment with all of those tournaments going on, and I need to skip some games in order to catch up. And yeah, so I skipped this game, and I will also only cover the Intermezzo Championship partly this time, to hopefully then cover the next international championship then fully again, as well as the next stage of the World Championship, because now, as we will see in the standings in a minute, it is also clear that I will be able to move on to the next stage. And yeah, so I Knew that I needed to skip some games, and the game maybe could have been fine to show, but it just had a very anticlimactic ending because it was actually a difficult position for me in H3. I had some issues, and Vandal was a bit running away with the culture. But then at the end or at the middle of H3, he just resigned, even though he was in a winning position, which was a bit surprising and which just was a very anticlimactic ending. So I thought it could be a bit weird to show when you are excited to see how the game will finish, and then there will be this resignation. And it also felt a bit wrong and bad towards Mario because Vandal definitely had good chances to win this game. Maybe I could have still somehow turned it around, but he definitely had decent chances, I think, and I was a bit in trouble. And now, so with resigning, Vandal maybe has just given me 3 additional points because after he resigned, I was able to win against Frontisec in the 2-player game that was then going on. So I basically potentially gained 3 additional points, and Frontisec also 2 additional points because no. And I mean, as I said, maybe there was a chance that I could have won this game also with Vandal staying in the game, but no, that was felt a bit weird, and I think it could have been maybe better from Vandal to just play on, also just to be fair towards Mario. No, and no, so I did not show this game. So I won in Frontisec was at the second position. Vandal resigned, so Vandal has now finished all of his games. Is at 0 points. He probably didn't have any motivation to play on after the games before didn't really went great for him. And now with that, there is only one game left for Mario, a 3-player game, and even if he should win this, he can't overtake me any longer now that I also won the 2-player game against him. And with that, I am guaranteed to be one of the first 2 places and to move on to the next stage. However, it is not certain yet if I will be able to finish at the first position. And the next game that you will see will be a 3-player game against Frontisec and Mario. So for Frontisec there is still a chance to be at the first position, and of course I want to make sure that it doesn't happen. But Frontisec also has to be careful. He has a nice position now. But if he loses this 3-player game and Mario scores some points, then he is also definitely still in danger of not advancing at all. So it's very close, especially maybe for the second position, but also it's still possible that Frontisec will overtake me. And so the next game that you will see will be that 3-player game against Frontisec and Mario, and I hope you're looking forward to that. No, and I hope it was an interesting video for you. Another 2-player game, a nice colonization game. At the end, maybe not exciting, but there definitely were parts where it could have gone into a different direction. And now, then the next video will probably be this one 3-player game. And now, then have a nice time and see you in the next video.